Generative AI, like ChatGPT, has totally changed the game. You just talk to it like a person, and boom, it helps you do stuff that used to take you years to learn. Animation, photo editing, all at your fingertips now. All you need to do is write a prompt. But does it ever feel to you that AI gives you answers to questions you didn't ask? Feels like it's auditioning for Marvel's Captain Confusion. You have no clue what is happening. You're asking it something, it's giving you something else. And you're spending 5 to 10 prompts trying to get that little task that you needed to be done. And at that point, maybe you could have done it by yourself. This also leads to wastage of your credits. And of course, the most important one is time. AI is supposed to help us reduce the time spent in doing things. If it's not doing that, if it's continuously giving us wrong answers, we are wasting our time and money. So today, we're diving into prompt writing. So you get exactly what you need and not Shakespearean monologue or some weird fancy edit. That's cool, but it's not exactly what you wanted from your image editor. Hi, I'm Ronnie, and welcome to Predictably Clueless. Before we get into prompt writing, first let's talk about what is a prompt. It's basically our message to AI. It's like giving instructions to a really smart, super eager intern who has access to the whole library like you do. But you don't have the time to do something, and it does. It has infinite amount of time. Maybe not every intern has infinite amount of time, but this one does. So you say, hey ChatGPT, hey Copilot, do this thing. And it tries its best. If you're clear about what you are expecting you will get that pirate lingo poem that you asked for. But if you're vague, you'll get a business plan for studio for yoga for cats. Can happen. You want your prompt, the message that you're sending to your AI, to be very clear, so that they understand exactly what is needed, and hopefully also give them some instructions on how they should reach that end goal. So what comprises of a great prompt? A great prompt has 4 parts, like a good sandwich. It has to have all its layers for it to be a good sandwich, or for it to be a good prompt in this case. First, you need to set a goal. What do you want from it? Is it a blog, a summary, a poem, or a business plan? Set it clearly in the first sentence of your prompt. Next, provide some context. What is the situation? Give it some background. So for example, I could go and ask it to create a business plan for a yoga studio. And then in the context, I would say I need it in the suburbs of XYZ city, where we allow customers to bring in their pets, specifically cats. Next, we need to set some expectations. So what kind of format this business plan has to be in? Is it supposed to be a Word plus Excel file? Or if it's something that you made it right, some essay, some article, what kind of tone it needs to have, what kind of length it needs to have. Make sure that you're very specific. Again, if you wanted to write a story, you want to define, is it supposed to be a 1,000-word story? Is it supposed to be a 20,000-word story? Should it divide it into chapters? All these details you already need to think about. And then it's going to fill in all that gaps for you in the way you want it to be. If you just provided a vague prompt, you will get a vague interpretation of your message as a reply. Lastly, you need to be clear. You need to give it a clear source. If you are giving it an article, tell it, okay, what I will provide you is an article and here is what it contains. Or sometimes I have to do data analysis in Excel, and what I do is I provide it a spreadsheet and I ask it to read and confirm to me what it got from the spreadsheet. Again, you want to be sure that it understood the data the way you understand it, and then it helps you reach a clear outcome once it processes that information. And then, sometimes you're just going by pure vibes, and you can also put that, since all of these generative AI are supposed to connect one word to another and input to output, it will still give you some nice context if you just provide what vibes you're going for in your yoga studio, for example. But without all these 4 layers, your AI will keep guessing to what outcome you mean. It will give you some answers. Sometimes it will be hallucinations. What they are, if you don't know, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it in some other video. So remember, when you're messaging your generative AI for something that you need to do a few things. You need to define a clear goal. You need to give it then some context. You need to give it a format in which you want the reply to be in. And then if you have any sources, give that and define what is in that source of information. So we talked about the 4 layers to your message that has to be there when you're prompting an AI. But there are certain tips. Again, some of these I already mentioned, but let's go through them one by one. First, of course, is be specific. You can say, write me a story. It's okay. Write me a 300-word horror story about haunted smart fridge. Now we are talking. Now it's specific. It's going to make something very clear and maybe something that you wanted. Tip 2, structure matters. Prompts are like punchlines. What comes last hits hardest. So put the most important stuff at the end. Tip 3, let's fix the numbering. Iterate and regenerate. Your first result might be meh. That's normal. Tweak it, try again, but keep the structure of your prompts very consistent. You want to add more information, not make the AI more confused. Think of it like dating apps. You will have to swipe a few times before you get your vibe correct. But it's going to get there. There's, again, a finite amount of information it's going to go through to get you that information, that output that you need. One example of this could be summarize this in 5 points. Those 5 points might not be exactly as you expected. If it doesn't work, you want to say, summarize it in 3 bullets. Focus on key takeaways. And it's going to give you a bit more cleaner result, hopefully something that you expected. So try to change it up a little bit. So now let's talk about some follow-ups to all these tips and the fact that we can stack tasks with generative AI. You don't have to stop in one prompt. You can keep the conversation going. So once you have an output, you can rewrite that for Gen Z. Or maybe you want it to look a bit more informal, add more emojis, now throw in a pun about robots and cats. So you can do all those things when you're working with an AI. Also, you have to remember that you don't have to give all the information in one go. It has limited memory, but it's not so limited that you can't provide it more information in more prompts. There is something I like to do is I would give it some prompt, some information. I will give it a sheet of Excel. I'll explain, I want to do some data analysis. Here is Excel sheet with some information that I have. I'll define what each columns have and I'll say, read it and tell it back to me how this data looks. Don't generate any outputs yet. I will give you more context. And so what it'll do is it'll just read through the data, give me a summary of what it understood from the Excel file that I gave it. And then in the next prompt, I can provide it more context. If you make it a very lengthy essay of a prompt, it might just fail completely. Again, remember, it's trying to connect words that you have given to an output. It doesn't have to be a very accurate comparison, especially if you give too many words to it. You want to be specific but not elaborate, and that is the key. And if you really do need to provide a lot more context into the work you're about to do with your generative AI, you want to break it down into a few prompts. First, make it read the data, make sure it understands, then provide more context to the data, and then in the third part, you can say, okay, now we are ready. Now let's generate that analysis based on all the discussions we have had so far. So lastly, let's talk about different types of prompts. Most of the prompts that you will write are going to fit in a few predefined categories. And again, if you think of more, just let me know down in the comments below. You can ask it, give me some ideas, summarize this, make an image, or analyze this data. Once you see the pattern, it's way easier to write very solid, clear prompts. That's always going to give you a correct response. Prompt writing is part science, part art, and part talking to a very weird, very smart friend. It's very helpful if you're clear, try to be curious, try to explore what things it can do, and try to be very clear as to what answers you're expecting. And if possible, you can also define how you want it to reach that conclusion. Again, there will be more and more smarter versions of these chatbots. They are always going to upgrade to version 4, version 5, version 10. Each of them will be better at giving you a final output. But the way you talk to them is going to stay about the same, again, until we reach AGI. Because at the base of it all, they are taking words, they're comparing with all the data they have, and they're giving out an output based on that. That was it for now. Please leave us your weirdest, strangest prompts that you have tried in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see what horrors AI comes up with next. See you next time.